Hey, so I'm Jason Connell. Welcome to this webinar. Excited to be here. And please, if you get a chance, chat with us during during the interaction. Let us know where you're coming from. Always curious to see where people come in from. And I want to introduce Andy Lee as well, who will be with me on this journey through this great webinar.
Hey guys, excited to be here. My name's Andy. I'm the founder and the general manager of Coast Tradelines and excited to talk about this topic with everyone today.
Awesome. Yeah, this is really exciting. So, we are basically achieving your financial goals again with Coast Trade Lines. And we're going to go through this deck kind of together, but we're not just going to read it. We're going to interact. We're going to talk. We encourage people to do chats so we can see. And there's definitely going to be a Q&A later, a couple different times, and Andy can unpack your questions. So, get those ready. But any chats, little things like this, and we got some people from various places, Miami, Florida, New Jersey, which is great. Appreciate that. Thank you all for being here. So let's jump into the slides. So, Andy, we're really here about credit, getting your credit right. And I know that sometimes we just have to start with just layman's terms, like what are AU trade lines? You hear that word, and it's like, whoa. So we're going to get into that, get
Mm,
into boosting credit worthiness and how this company, your company, can help others.
sounds good.
So here we go. How did you attend? So how did you find out? How did you choose to attend this webinar? We know where some of you are from. So maybe let us know how you even heard about us. That's a way for us to know our marketing efforts are working. So please, let's use that chat. Let's keep banging the chat with things, stay interactive. And it's not going to be forever. This is only going to be like 20 something minutes, 20 something minute Q&A here to answer all your questions. So it should be a lot of fun. So Coast Trade Lines, who are they? What do they do? Andy, I cannot wait to get into this.
Yep. And
So
I think
go
oh,
ahead.
go ahead, No, go ahead, Jason.
Well, I know that you're coming up on kind of a milestone year. So this company was founded in 2010. Kind of hard to believe. 15 years, based in California. And what a credit repair company is essentially what it is, specializing in, like I said earlier, authorized user trade lines.
Yeah, that's right. And yep, this was founded in 2010. I started this company at the height of the Great Recession. At that time, there were a lot of folks that needed credit improvement, to boost their credit scores. They had a hard time getting a loan, right? This was in the thick of things. And so this is kind of the genesis of the company. And I think I want to call attention to specializing in authorized user trade lines because there's a lot of credit repair companies out there. And this is different than the type that most people are used to. When people when you see an ad for credit repair company, right, that's usually a credit repair company that will help you remove the negative items on your credit report. They help you dispute the derogatory marks. They help you remove the inquiries, right? Authorized user trade lines is a way that's the opposite. Instead of removing negative items, it's a way to add positive items to boost your score. And we're going to get into those details. So no worries if all of this just sound alien to you, but I just want to make that differentiation why trade lines is a little bit different form of credit repair than you might be used to.
I'm really glad you pointed that out, Andy. It's so very true. There's a lot of companies removing, and you're right. You're adding and bringing a boost and doing something very significant. And it does get technical, and that's part of what we're going to talk about.
Yeah.
And here we go. How does it work? Well, let's break it down, the nuances of the AU trade lines. Okay. All right, sorry, I heard something. So a trade line is essentially a credit card. And Andy, I can read through these or we can break them down one by one. It's pretty simple at this point, but
Yeah, that's right.
a card holder is the credit card owner and the person responsible for paying off the credit card. An authorized user is someone who is able to use the card holder's credit, but is not responsible for the credit card balance. anything you want to jump in here, Andy, because I know it
Yeah,
starts to
sure.
kind of churn really quickly into like,
Yeah, yeah.
what?
Sure. So let's just start with definitionally, what is a trait line, right? Definitely before I started this company, and I had to learn a lot of these things by myself also before the company started. I've never heard of the word trait line in my life. When I started the company, essentially, a trade line is you could just see it as a thing that appears on your credit report. Now, we are all familiar with now our credit report and our credit scores. There's a lot of companies out there that will give you a free, yeah, free credit report and tell you what your credit scores are, right? So if you've seen your credit report, it's basically a measure of your credit worthiness, and in the details, there's all sorts of financial instruments that you've used in your life, right? We're talking about student loans, car loans, mortgages, credit cards that you've had, business loans, line of credits that you have. All of those things are trade lines. Basically, a trade line is a thing on your credit file that impacts your score. Now, when we're talking about then what's an authorized user trade line, all right? So an authorized user trade line is a special thing that goes on your credit report that comes from the person being an authorized user on another person's credit card, right? So um, can we jump to the next slide here? I don't want to speak ahead.
Yeah,
Okay,
here we
got
go.
it. Okay, so let's go on to this slide. Okay, so authorized user. So what happens when you're added as an authorized user? How does this work? Like how does the score get boosted, right? When you're added onto someone as an authorized user on their credit card, that means that you could use that person's credit card and the person that owns the credit card will pay it even if you don't pay. That's usually what happens, right? Like this typically is used when parents want to put their kids on as authorized users. For
Right.
example, when their kids go off to school, go off to college, like, hey, I add you, they add their kids on as an authorized user on their credit card, right? The 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 child will have a credit card put in their wallet as a kind of an emergency thing. That's usually how it happens, right? And so whatever the kid spends on the credit card, the parent sees it in their bill and they'll pay it, right? And the banks love to do that because it is increasing the number of people that will use the card, which increases the likelihood of spend on the card, which increases the likelihood that they could charge you interest if you don't pay off the card every month,
Right.
right? So so that's how an authorized user works. Now, when we talk about authorized user trait line, we're talking about the side benefit of when someone gets added as an authorized user. Well, I'll just pause here quickly
Yeah.
because I just said a lot, Jason. I
Yes,
don't want
sure,
to
sure.
overload. So,
No, and I'm glad you did, and you really, painted a good picture. And I just want to be like a myth buster here. I just want it to be clear. Your example was spot on. It's a lot of times it's a family member, giving that credit access to a child, but not all instances on trade lines do you actually get the physical card. That's just like the family component, right? So
right.
I want to be clear because some people think trade line credit card, I get that credit card, and that's kind of like the myth buster. Like in this scenario, this company doesn't hand off credit cards per se. It's more about being attached to the trade line in the credit cards, in the credit space, not in the physical sense. There's no handing of credit cards, using credit cards. That doesn't come into play here.
Yeah, that's right. And so let me just continue on to the second part
Yeah.
quickly then is so then what happens when you're added on as an authorized user on someone else's credit card, right? Well, that credit card's payment history, like the credit card's attributes, right? The credit limit, how long it's been open, the payment history
Hmm.
appears on your credit file.
Yep.
The parent's credit card appears on the child's credit report because the child has an authorized user has access to the credit card, right? So that implicitly implies that they're getting the benefit of that credit card, and then so that credit card appears on the child's credit report. Now, if that credit card has a perfect payment history, that's very beneficial for the authorized user's credit score. And so the beauty and the magic of this whole thing is even if the credit card is not used at all, just simply by virtue of a person adding on another person as an authorized user on their credit card, the authorized user's credit score benefits, the file benefits. And we're going to talk about other benefits later in terms of payment history, credit
Hmm.
utilization ratios, but
Yep.
that's essentially the gist of how this works. Now, what our company does is we match people that have these big limit credit cards, credit cards that have been open for a long time with a lot of perfect payment history. We match them with folks that need a little bit of help. They're trying to
Yep.
accomplish some financial goal. They need to boost their credit, and that gets to actually, if you could go back to a previous page, why people do that, why people do this, why
Hmm.
people go out and buy an authorized user trade line or shorten it to AU trade line, right?
Yep.
They usually have some financial goal.
Yep.
One, they're trying to secure a loan. Number two, they want to rent an apartment and they're afraid that, their credit might not be where they want it to be. So they want to boost the score before the property manager runs their credit. Number three, they want to lower the interest rates. Say, we have some clients, they are in a lot of debt and the interest is very high and they want to consolidate, right? They have four different credit cards and they want to put all the debt on one credit card with lower interest rate. Would they
Yep.
need to boost their score before applying for that credit card? And then lastly, some clients simply want to get higher credit limits on their existing credit cards. Well, they want to boost their score. They want to boost the measure of their credit worthiness before asking the bank to increase their credit limit.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And really, it comes down to just getting a boost to secure whatever you're after, what you're seeking, and that's the difference in just what you were talking about earlier, a credit repair company. Where this is a true boost, guaranteed boost in a certain amount of time, which we're going to get into. And I think you described it very well. So we could probably move on to the next, which I think is a continuation. So now we get into credit worthiness. And I mean, Andy, you see the points on screen here, which you kind of touched to some of these because I like that Aladdin there. Do you trust me? So it gets into payment history. Do you want to break down anything you want to say, or I could just hit these points, or
No, no, go ahead.
okay, so payment history, obviously, credit usage, utilization, derogatory marks, the credit age, total accounts, hard inquiries, all these things make up your credit worthiness. If you have a spotty payment history, if you have some derogatory marks or all very new trade lines, you're just not going, or just credit cards in general, you're just not going to be looked at or perceived trustworthy enough, worthy enough to be higher, on that like 700, 750. And that's why you hit some of these pain points and seeking out a company, a reputable company to reach those goals is really the essence of what Coast Trade Lines does.
And um, I hope you guys don't hear the my baby daughter crying in the background. I have a 15-month-old daughter and
Oh.
it's getting closer at bedtime. Um, the, the reason why we have that Aladdin image is this whole idea of someone that has a credit card adding someone else as an authorized user, right? So in a way, it takes a little bit of trust because if you're added on as an authorized user on someone's credit card, you need to know that the credit card has perfect payment history. It's been
Yeah.
open a long time, at least 2 years, right? And has a good credit limit. If you get added onto someone's credit card and that credit card, the person has a few late payments on there.
Mhm.
He hasn't had the credit card for very long. Well, oops, that's not going to help your credit that much, right? So when it comes to dealing with these authorized user trade lines, you want to make sure that you're working with a reputable company. It's been in business for a while. They work above board, and that they have these credit cards that they guarantee you that they have perfect payment history.
Absolutely. Hey, I'd be remiss if I didn't ask, does your child is an authorized user yet on your cards?
I don't want her spending. Yes.
Too soon, too soon.
Yeah.
No, it is about trust. You're right. And that's what I love about Coast Trade Lines. You're only working with very reputable credit card holders who have perfect payment history, who have great cards, and they want to protect them. You're not going with someone who's going to miss a payment because that can do more damage than good if you're not with the right, setups, essentially.
Mhm.
Okay, we'll move on from here. Credit. AU trade line benefits. We kind of just went over this is
Yeah.
reiterating what we just talked about. And again, it's about trust. And that's, and these are again those goals. And there could be others, but these are some of the big ones, Andy, loans, apartments, interest rates, some of the things you just talked about. But really, whatever your goal is, and if you have that shortage, that gap, there's really no way to get there except for time, right? You can take time and slowly move up, but some people, life, is moving very quickly and you're looking to
Mhm.
get a boost to benefit you in any way that you see necessary.
That's right.
Now we're going to get in the weeds, I think. So this is payment histories, on time, no missed payments. And Andy, I'm sure we'll talk about how essential this is for the clients that you work with.
Yeah, that's right. A few slides ago, we talked about, hey, what are the elements of creditworthiness?
Hmm.
Creditworthiness, that's just a fancy term for your credit score. Everybody knows what their credit score is, right? Generally, is it 500 something, 600 something,
Hmm.
700 something? And then you meet these rare perfectionists, 800 something, right? Uh, One of the elements is the payment history. The trade lines that you have, and by trade line, we mean things on your credit report right now. Have you been making on-time payments on them? Do you have some late payments? Or are there some charge-offs or derogatory remarks? That's what we're talking about when we talk about payment history. And when you add an authorized user trade line, it will boost your payment history, the positive streak of on-time payments in your payment history.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, I like this grid too. So now this is what it looks like. You want green checks. You don't want red X's. So, I mean, this is really what a credit report looks like, Andy.
Yeah, so here this is an example of an example of a person's credit report of a particular trade line, right? This could be a student loan or a credit card that they've had since 2021 or longer. And it's saying at the top is each month, right? JFMAM, JJASOND is this months of the year. And when there's a green check, it means that they made an on-time payment, right? And
Hmm.
then an X is they made a late payment, right? So this person, they've had a lot of late payments. Only
Yeah.
10% of their payments have been on time. The majority of it has been late. This jacks up their credit score, right?
Yep.
So their credit score is probably very low, 400, low 500s.
Hmm. Yeah. This is not what you want. Now, this is a representation of what you want, or
Yeah.
this is perfect.
And so what happens is this is the payment history of a credit card that you can be added on, right? Our
Hmm.
firm has hundreds of credit cards. We work with through 15 years, we've developed relationships with a lot of folks with these credit cards where they've made on-time payment is a perfect payment history, right? Green checks across the board,
Yep.
right? And so when you're added on as an authorized user on a credit card such as this, all these green checks will appear in your credit file. And so when you combine it then with
Hmm.
your credit report today, plus adding a lot of green checks, what
Hmm.
happens then is your overall percentage of on-time payment goes up,
Yeah.
right? It's
10% to 85% in this example, anyway. That's
yeah,
huge.
yeah. As Aladdin saying, "Do you trust me? You ride on the magic carpet, right? You were on the ground before,
Hmm.
and to get added on as an authorized user is getting on the magic carpet. So that boosts your on-time payment score, right? And that's one element, but it's a major element of your credit score. So that's how your credit score goes up in
Yeah.
this example.
Very good example. Kuzan. Okay. So just because you can, it doesn't mean you should. I like that a lot. Creditors will allow you a certain dollar amount of credit that you are free to use as you choose. However, Andy, as you well know, they'll knock you for actually using your credit. So let's delve into that exactly because that's a little confusing. We know the answer, but let's kind of unpack that a little bit further.
Yeah, sure. So this is talking about the second benefit and the second element of a person's credit score, which is a calculation called the credit utilization. That second
Hmm.
bullet there, right? It's how much credit you're given, but then how much of it do you actually use, right? So if a bank gives you a $5,000 credit card and you max it out, we all
Mm.
have people in our lives where they apply for a credit card, they max it out. That's not good for their credit score, right? Because someone will see their credit score, report and say, okay, this guy's already maxed out.
Hmm.
You know, if I lend him more money, it's going to be riskier,
Right.
right?
Right.
That's essentially what the credit utilization calculation is. So if we go into some specific numbers, right, on the top left-hand corner, your credit today. Example, if you have a $2,000 credit card and you use up 1,500 of it, right? And maybe you carry that month to month. Maybe you pay interest on it. Maybe you pay it down a little bit every month, right? But essentially, you're carrying 1,500 on $2,000 credit card. Your utilization is 75%, right? That comes from 1,500 divided by 2,000.
Yeah.
You've used up 75% of what a bank trusts you with. All right. So if now you're going to ask someone to give you another credit card, you're applying for a loan, applying for a car loan, or even going to, uh, renting an apartment, the property manager will be like, oh, wait, you're kind of like maxed out, right? I'm like, can I trust you pay the rent on time here?
Yeah.
Right?
And yeah, and then not to just to point this out really quickly, you didn't do anything wrong. You have a $2,000 credit card and you use 1,500. Things come up
Yeah.
in life. You didn't do anything wrong, but your credit will go down when you use this higher utilization amounts. Right. And there's a sweet spot that I'll let you speak to that they want you to kind of stay within. It's just kind of an unwritten rule, but you will see it have an impact on your credit.
And so what happens then when you add an authorized user trade line, that magic carpet, right? We're really harping on that Disney analogy here, is in this example, you get added on to someone else's credit card that has it's a $30,000 credit card and they barely put any spend on it. They also put like 1,500 spend and you just put a little bit of spend on it. And the utilization of that credit card is
Mm,
5%, right? Coming from
5%.
1,500 divided by 30,000. So it's only 5%. So then what happens when this authorized user trade line, this 5% trade line appears on your credit file? When you merge what you have today with an authorized user trait line, well, then we just let the math play out, right? The combined limit is your $2,000 credit card plus the 30,000 from the authorized user trait lines. That's 30,000. And how much is spent across both
Mm,
credit cards? 1,500 from yours, 1,500 from that high limit credit card. So that's 3,000, right? And so then when we calculate the utilization, which is 3,000 divided by 32,000, that would be a little shy of 10%,
yep.
9.4%. This is a simplified a scenario. Obviously, most people have many more trait lines, right?
Yep.
Many more things on their credit file, but it kind of does give you a sense, Jason, on how the math works out
Oh,
and
yeah.
how finding the right trait line, right? In this case, is finding a trait line with the good size credit limit could really start to balance out
Yep.
some of the things that are not as positive on a person's credit report.
Absolutely. Yeah, we have to simplify it to really digest it, but whatever it is, you would kind of know your shortage, and then you could go through and kind of pick a card that's best for you, or cards that are best for you to make this difference. This is a huge difference. 75 utilization, 75% down to under 10. That's going to have a significant impact on this person's credit.
That's right.
All right, how it works. Improve credit utilization ratios, which we've been talking about. Two, diversify credit accounts. And three, extend credit history. So we can unpack these or we're going to break them down, I'm sure, but anything you want to speak to here, Andy?
Yeah, I think we're gonna go into the portion of the seminar where we walk through our website and talk about exactly how it works. But let me quickly talk about number two and three because I think we just talked about one in detail.
Yep. Yep.
Um, again, why it works, the benefit of a trade line, right? Number two, diversifying credit accounts, which is sometimes there's a benefit of not just simply the number of trade lines number of things you have on your credit report, but also the different types of things you have on your credit report. When I was in my 20s, I was really interested in boosting my credit score. I really want to get it as high as I go. And I remember someone telling me, "Oh, you want to boost your credit score? Go get a mortgage." I thought,
Mhm.
how is that going to work? Mortgage, that is hundreds of thousands of dollars, right? Because I grew up in California, houses are expensive there. And then it seemed counterintuitive. Why would I take on debt, borrow more money, and somehow that's good for my credit score? Well, that's not the whole story. He was saying get a mortgage and pay it on time, right? And then that boosts your credit score because it shows that you can handle a big
Yeah.
debt. But the other piece of what he meant was I had credit cards, on my credit file, but I didn't have a mortgage, right? That's another type of trade line, a mortgage, student loans, credit cards, right? So there is a benefit of getting different types. Or even if you have credit cards, it's good to get credit cards from different banks, right? The
Mhm.
diversity boosts your score, right? Because then there's more sources that is speaking on your credit worthiness.
Yeah.
And I'll
Yeah.
speak quickly on number three, uh, how AU trade lines extend your credit history. Um, Credit history is just how long you've been dealing with credit, how long you've been borrowing money, and how long is the history of you repaying back the money you borrowed, right? I started when I was 18, 17. I got a dinky credit card, like it was like $500 credit limit. Um, and I've been building my history there for the last 20 years. What a authorized user trade line does is when we add that payment history, right, then it extends the reflection of how much credit you history you have on your credit report, right? Whether you are young, middle age, older, right? When you add an authorized user trade line, that card's credit history and the number of months is at that on time perfect payment history will also appear on your file.
Yeah. Yeah. That's good. I think we set the stage for what's coming.
I think next we want to, so let's walk
Yeah.
through our
This is good.
website here.
Perfect.
And I know that me and Jason talked through a lot of information at you. We will have time. We have an hour for this to answer any of your questions, and we will be thorough in answering any of your questions. So right now we're going to walk through the website, but any questions, put in the Q&A,
Yep.
and we'll be sure to get to them at the end of the seminar. All right. So this is the website here, uh, coasttradelines.com. Um, I just want to highlight, we're going to go to the how to buy a trade line, but I want to highlight the right-hand side, that interest form. Filling out the interest form is the easiest way uh, to stay in touch with us. If you provide us your email or phone number, and or if you're not comfortable with either one, just one of them, that's all right. Uh, we'll reach out, happy to answer your questions either on the phone, via text, talking to somebody, or via email. All right. Okay. Um, I guess let's jump to how to buy a trade line, right? So you'll pick your own trade line, and essentially, while the form loads here, is there's basically two steps. You pick out the trade line you want, and then you tell us a little bit about yourself so we know who we're adding on as an authorized user, right?
Nice.
So this is our trade line page, and at the top there's a legend talks about we have so many trade lines that we want to put it in this as short, efficient form as possible, right? So every trade line, it's a credit card out there in the US that someone owns and that they're willing to add you as an authorized user, right? So in this example, in the first line, right, we talk about what state that trade line comes from. Some folks have a preference for if they're in New Jersey. I know we have folks from New Jersey and Florida here. they want to be added on a credit card that's from that state, right? So it's New Jersey. Uh, that 0870, that's our identifier number. That's an internal number we use to keep track of what trade line is what. And then it goes into the bank, the credit limit, right? This is a credit card with 11,800, almost 12,000 credit limit from Chase. How long it's been open, 9 years, right? And the statement date, and then the price. Now the statement date, why is it important? Because it will give you a timing on when you should expect it to appear on your credit file. That's important because
Yeah.
a lot of
Right.
folks, they're at these authorized user trade lines because they're trying to accomplish some financial goal, right? We get a lot of clients that are trying to buy a house, or we used to, not as much today because interest rates are so high. But when you're trying to buy a house, timing is everything, right? You
Right.
got to
Yeah.
put in an offer, you got to get it accepted, the escrow opens, you got to talk to your loan officer, they're going to check your credit report and lock in your rate, right? So, anyways, so the statement date gives you an idea of when you can expect your score to be boosted, when you expect the trade line to post on your credit file, and it's going to be about 10 days after that date. You notice here it says 19th, right? So if the customer who buys a trade line can expect this Chase card to appear as a trade line on their credit file by the
Mhm.
29th. Now, you notice there's no months. The reason why is we do this month in, month out. This trade line is available almost every month.
Mhm.
What we do is we keep the authorized user on the card for 2 months at a time. For 2 months, this is on your file. You do whatever you need with it, right? So buy that car, buy that house, ask for a credit limit on your own credit lines, right? And then after that, the authorized user is removed and we make the space available for the next customer. So we have trade lines that we just turn around every other month, right? And that's how we continue to help customers. We've been doing this for 15 years. I want to highlight the particular trade lines that have a star next to them. These are our best performers. Is that these trade lines, we worked with the person who owns this credit card for a
Mhm.
long time. They're diligent in adding folks as an authorized user, and it always appears very reliably and predictably.
Got it.
And so here, there's an asterisk on that. And we highlight those. We want to reward those guys with these credit cards that have diligently added authorized user.
I have a quick question, Andy, because this is awesome. I love that you're breaking this down. And some of this I know, but some of it's new. If I could, just because I say a layman was like, "Hey, what's going on here?" Is there a benefit, and I don't think there is, to what state or what bank it is, with the limit being aside and the age and all that. But is there like, is Chase better than B of A? Is New Jersey better than Massachusetts? Do you just want to clarify that very quickly?
Yeah. And that's a great question. The bank is a little bit more important than the state. The
Okay.
bank comes down, this all comes down to how you're going about accomplishing your financial goal. For the majority of the people, the bank doesn't matter, the state doesn't matter.
Yeah.
But we have a subgroup of customers where they are wanting to boost their score as much as they can because they are wanting to get some loan for their business, like a business line
Mm,
of credit, and they're
yeah.
talking about hundreds of thousands of dollars. And in fact, in that world, there are people that are brokers that will take these customers to specific banks
Got
because
it.
they know some banks are more generous and whatnot, right? And so they have more particular requirements. They want to see a Chase credit. These are customers are the ones that usually add more than one trade line. They'll add two or three.
Mhm.
They'll say, I want to Chase a B of A and a Capital One trade line. And
Okay.
they all need to be in Florida, right? Because I'm going to take my customer, take this borrower to this regional bank in Florida, and so that's where that information comes in. But the majority of folks that say you just want to boost your score, you just want to get a car loan, right? The state and the bank, not as important.
Okay. Okay. Thank you for clarifying. And then as far as the spots go, I mean, it seems Please self-explanatory, but yet you only have so many spots, and if they're all taken, that card's just out of rotation for a couple of months.
Yeah, that's right. That's
Okay,
right. Yeah. Um,
perfect.
let's move down a little bit. So we're talking about the first step in how do you purchase a trade line, right? So we have a large inventory. We have hundreds of trade lines, right? We have hundreds of trade lines. So, and we actually organize it a little bit for you here. There's basically three sections, right? The first section is the value trade line. Second section is the age trade line, and the third
Oh,
section is the everything else, right? So the first section, value trade lines, is trade lines for less than $250. You're on a budget. Maybe you're not sure how this works. You don't want to invest a lot of money. This is the perfect place for you.
yeah.
We have the cheapest trade lines in the industry. You won't find a cheaper trade line for the credit limit, for the history, and the perfect payment history that you'll get, right? All of these trade lines in this box, value trade lines, 250 or less. Pick one, see where your score goes, and then see where you go with that, right? The next section is the age trade lines. We have a lot of clients asking us, they're really focused on the payment history. And so we made a whole section just for trade lines, credit cards with at least 7 years of history.
Mm,
Again, perfect payment history, but they've been open for 7 years.
yeah,
And then the next one is everything else. Everything else. Now, I think here I'll just give a bonus tip because I get asked this question a lot. I get asked, Andy, how do I choose the right trade line? The right trade line. Well, what's the credit limit? Obviously, I don't want to spend more than I need to, right? You can see that we have some trade lines for $250 or less. We have some trade lines over $1,000. Though we have some trade lines that it's like a $60,000 credit limit credit card that's been open for 15 years, right? Um, and for certain folks, adding that trade line would be overkill, right? So the general rule of thumb I offer our clients, Jason, is when they ask what trade line should they get, I say get a trade line with the credit limit that's higher than anything else you have on your file,
yeah,
right? You want it to move the needle. If
yep,
you already have a credit card with $20,000 credit limit, don't get a $5,000 trade line, right? Get 20,000, 25,000, 30,000. But if you only have a credit card with $5,000 credit limit, you don't need to overspend on $20,000 credit line.
that's right.
Just get a $10,000 one, right? Save yourself some money. It'll move the needle for you.
That's great. It's really great. The website looks amazing. I like that you have these categories. It makes it real simple. And I'm noticing a lot of sold out cards. So cards already spoken for, out of rotation for a few months, which is great.
Yeah, that's right. And we're getting the reason why is we're getting near the end of the month, and
Mm,
these trade lines they roll over every couple months, right? So um, that's why the inventory
okay.
is getting bought out.
Okay.
So we'll go on to the next. After you pick your trade line here, we'll go on to the next page, which is then, hey, let us know. And there's some of these caveats up front here, which is before you buy trade lines, you need to make sure that your credit file is in a good place before you add trade lines, right? There's no fraud
Mm,
alerts. Sometimes when you work with credit repair companies, they put fraud alerts on your credit file.
sure.
Make sure you have your credit profile. Sign up for credit monitoring so you can see when it posts, right? Um, some customers so all of this stuff up here, uh, we put them up here because we learn from our mistakes over
Yeah.
15 years, right?
Yep.
Folks have fraud alert and then that they don't see the trade line posted and they start yelling at us. They're like, okay, well, it turns out you have fraud alert. That doesn't help, right?
Yeah.
Or sign up for credit monitoring so you can see it as soon as uh, and credit monitoring, there's so many more services now and a lot of free ones, much more than when we first started. So
Sure.
there should be no excuse for anybody not to have credit monitoring.
It's really good, Andy. I like that. You learn this, you're sharing this. Also, I'm sure you would encourage customers, like, even though you're trying to pick a trade line, make sure you're ready and you need the boost. Like timing, as you said, on a home was essential. You get the credit line too early, and then 3 months later, you're ready to execute. It's so you kind of want to line everything up and make a plan.
Mm-hmm. So we'll scroll through this kind of quickly because I'm conscientious to leave
Sure.
time for folks' questions.
Sure.
So these are all these caveats, right? We'll go on to the next stage, which I think the third page is we take down your information. After you, the first step is you make select your trade line. Second step is, hey, make sure you're in a good spot for the trade line to appear on your credit file, right? In terms of file alerts, setting up for credit monitoring, right? And then the third stage, finally, we take in your information, right? What's your email? What's your name? What's your phone number? And what's your social security number? Now you might go, wait, 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 social security number? Why
Mhm.
would I give you my
Yeah.
social
Yeah,
security number?
exactly.
The reason why we need your social security number is so that that gets added on as a piece of the information when you add it on as an authorized user. That's how the FICO credit system knows where to post that trade line, right? If you buy a $10,000 trade line, that $10,000 credit card, the bank that issued it, they need your social security number so they know they could report it to the credit bureaus, Experian, TransUnion, Equifax, that this
Exactly.
person is an authorized user. Post this trade line on their file, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that speaks to your history being in this space for 15 years. I'm sure you've helped customers. You've helped them again if they had something later in life. You've helped family members. That's where trust comes into play, which obviously you represent.
That's right. That's right. And then so we have some terms and conditions, sign it, and then we receive your application. So I think so this is the application, right? How to order a trade line. Um, yeah, I think if we just go through some of the payment options, and then I think we should get to the questions. I
Yeah.
think we will. So after you put in the order, you could put in the order and then we'll take your payment. After you put in the order, the spot is held for you. We hold that spot for you for 1 to 2 days until we receive your payment, right? Now, of course, if we don't receive your payment, we have to open up the spot for other interested customers. And in terms of payments, there's three ways you could pay us. You could go to a TD Bank branch if you're up in New York like me, make a deposit into our account. You could wire us the funds, or you could use a debit card and pay us that way, right? And then after we secure the payment, then we're gonna work with the cardholder, the person with that credit card, the trade line that you bought, and get you added.
Perfect.
And
Streamlined.
again, yeah, yep. And again, we're going every step of the way, we're going to communicate with you. We're going to say, hey, we got your order. Did you pay us yet? Oh, we got your funds. We're going to work with the cardholder to add you. Okay, now the cardholder's added you. This is when you can expect to for the trade line to appear on your credit file, right?
Nice.
um, can we go to, I guess, let's go to 24, 24, slide 24.
Okay. There we go. Deposit options. Oh no.
And 24 is the one more. It is
Okay.
what
Posting
what
your trade.
yeah,
Yeah. Okay.
which is what happens when you tell me the trade line is going to appear on your credit file and I look and I set up credit monitor and look at my report, it's not there, you know.
Hmm.
And I want to talk about this issue um, before it happens and you think we're a bunch of scammers, okay?
Yep.
Um, is that sometimes the as best as we can do it, the trade line still doesn't appear. Maybe the bank, the customer representative insert your social security number wrong. They misnumbered it, right? Maybe the cardholder, we asked them to add you and they fell ill and then they couldn't call the bank in time, right? Whatever the reason is, if after 8 to 10 days after statement date, you go on your credit file and you don't see it, you could submit a non-posting report. Let us know. We'll work it out with you. Um, Most of the time, we'll find a replacement line, something similar history, similar limit.
Yeah.
We'll post it for you ASAP. If we don't find a replacement line, we return the money that you paid as store credit. You could use it to buy another trade line, or if you're saying sometimes the timing doesn't work anymore, right? Uh, we could return your money. So I just want to make sure to I say this point, Jason, because this does happen,
Of
and
course.
I
Yeah.
want to communicate what's the worst case scenarios to set the proper expectations. I don't want to sell a pipe dream, and
Yep.
then when stuff like this happens, people are severely disappointed.
Absolutely. And I love the way you handle it though, Andy. I have to say you and your team, submit a non-posting report. It's going to I love that you're going to move them to a similar card or offer a refund because yeah, this can happen. The cardholder could add them after the statement date. They could have missed the window. And it doesn't mean you're not going to post, but it may be prolonged. So I love how due diligent you are at this. What would you say is there a percentage of this happening? I'm sure it's on the lower side, but it does happen from time to time.
Yeah, it does happen from time to time, maybe 5% of the time, 5 to
Okay.
7% of the time. So
Yeah.
like one out of seven, 1 out of 20
Yeah.
people.
Okay. It
But
gives me an
I
idea.
guess the point I want to emphasize is, hey, your money is safe with us.
Yes.
We're
Yes.
not been in the business for 15 years to take people's money.
Exactly.
We want to offer this service, and we really want to be of help people accomplish their financial goal.
Yeah.
But we're just saying there sometimes there might be some factors out of our control, and we just are upfront about that.
It's
But
great.
your money's always safe when nobody is ever going to lose money with us. Okay. Um, there's 10 minutes left. Jason, do you think we should take some questions?
I think we really covered it broadly. So I think we could unpack questions, hopefully encourage more questions, and we could always talk more about any other slides what we didn't hit on. But I know we have one in the Q&A now. Please, any other questions? This is the perfect time to start putting them in there. And I can go ahead and read these off to you, Andy, as they come in, and you can kind of field these questions.
Yep.
And so the first one I see is this is something we talked about earlier. So let me read this right. So I get access to spend on the main person's credit card? Question mark.
Yeah, that's right. We talked about this earlier. No, we're not going to spend on the person's credit card. What this is, if we're kind of taking advantage of a loophole.
Mm-hmm.
The banks want you to want people to add authorized users, as many authorized users, so that they could spend on the card and charge them interest, right? That's how the bank makes money. What we're saying is we take advantage of the situation, adding authorized users. Now, we're not going to put any spend on the card. And even in spite of that, you're going to get that trade line, that sweet on time payment history on your credit report. That's what we're going for. That's what the service you're paying for is.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm glad we talk about it because it's very confusing for some people. They think immediately, "Oh, I get a card, and yeah, we're trustworthy," but that's a whole other layer, and we're not getting into that. Okay, got another question here. And let me just bring it up a little bigger. Can you pay to get the credit card to report for 3 consecutive months instead of only 1 month? But you do too, but I'll let you answer this.
Yeah, that's right. We keep a person on the credit card for 2 months. So the price that you see, you get 2 months. Now, if after 2 months you want to stay on, sure, we'll work out some renewal fee. We're gonna discount it for you. But I have to say, in our experience, that happens very rarely because most people accomplish what they need in 2 months. Whether they want to buy a house, um, go get a car loan or
Right.
rent an apartment in the 2 months that they have it. Usually the issue is resolved. So we very rarely renew, very rarely uh have to go on to 3 months, which is good news for you.
Yeah,
You don't want to spend more money than you need to.
that's right. But to answer your question, sure. You can extend as long as you would like if that's really your goal, which is great because I'm sure a lot of places just don't work with customers the way that Coast Trade Lines does. Any other questions? And we can keep talking, of course. I'm waiting for one to pop in here. I'm kind of looking at the chat too, in case you happen to put your question in the chat box. That's okay. We can pull from either source. Um, Here we go. I love this. They're coming in like in real time. This is like a talk show. So, does the credit score go? Let me hang on. Does the credit score go and stay up just after 2 month trade line? So does it go up or stay after 2 months? So I guess I'm trying to discern what they're asking exactly. But we
Yeah,
kind of
that's
spoke to
right.
that earlier, right? Go ahead and speak to it, Andy.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And I think this is similar to a question that Kosi Okoli asked in the normal chat.
Oh, okay.
Maybe it's the same because this is anonymous attendee. So um uh the score, so usually it's the score moves, right? That you add a trait line, it goes up.
Hmm.
Um we get asked how much will it go up, but that's a separate question. To answer your question is the score goes up, and after 2 months, once the trait line disappears, your score will most likely go back down to where it is before. Now, for most clients, they don't care about that. They only need that score boost for those 2 months that they need to do whatever financial goal is they need done, right?
Exactly. Right.
Now, um, the thing is, we're keeping clients on a credit card for 2 months, and then we remove them, make room for the next person, right? But even in spite of that, most of the time, actually, the trade line
Stay.
is going to stay
Yeah.
posted
Right.
beyond 2 months. It could stay posted 5, 6, 7, 9 months, right? So you're continuing to benefit from it, even though you've been removed from the card. The only
Yeah.
thing is that that payment history is not going to update anymore. Say, for example, right now is March, right? I buy a trade line, I get added on someone's credit card, and they're going to remove me 2 months from now in May, right?
Yeah.
And so the trade line as it appears on my credit report is going to stay reported up to May, even if the trade line will it will stay on my credit file in June, July, August, September, so on and so forth. It'll only be up to May because I was only put on up to May and I was
Hmm.
removed, right? But for all intents and purposes, it is the boost the benefit will should theoretically revert back after you get removed, but most of the time it stays posted, so you still get that benefit, if that makes sense.
It does. And also to that point, and there's so many variables at play, but let's assume that you're on a trade line, you use it, you exercise what you want to do with the boost. Say it was me, and I get a bigger credit card. When I'm off of the AU, the trade line, my credit might be higher because I now have a credit card in my own name with a higher limit. So I wouldn't say it drops, it's just that trade line disappears. And if you're exercising it properly, you've probably boosted your own credit.
Mm, mm,
Right? I
that's
mean,
right.
theoretically, it depends on what your needs are, but great question and great answer. We got a couple more, Andy. Some are coming in now, which is great. How do you verify the account is in good standing before purchasing?
That's right. There is no official way you as the customer could
Mhm.
verify. The verification is done on our end when we partner with these cardholders that want to make extra money, right? What you're paying us, we go, we turn around and give them a share of it. They want to make extra money. And so they have to guarantee to us that they have a perfect payment history. Now, in our 15 years of history, I could maybe count 2 times where the person didn't have a perfect payment history.
Wow.
And so in that case we remove the client right away. We take them off as an authorized user, and then we also don't partner with that cardholder anymore. And we're talking about we serve hundreds of clients every month, right? So in the 15 years, that's only happened twice. So Reginald, I want to give you the confidence that, hey, when you work with us, when you buy a trade line from us, we have vetted these guys to have perfect payment history. Now, if you buy a trade line, if you remember what I talked about, there's some trade lines with the star next to it. Those are
Yes.
the highest performers. Those are proven trade lines with perfect payment history. I would turn your attention to those and prioritize those, and you won't go wrong with that.
Yeah, that's great. I'm looking through. So we have some other questions that came in through the chat, but some of them, well, I think we've already answered the questions. Essentially, it deals with does your credit score stay after the trade lines drop? This is what we've been talking about, and even the last one was to the same point. Kind of, that's a big question. Obviously, it's a big concern. I get this. What happens after? And so we've talked to this, Andy. But anything else you want to illuminate on that point? My expectations in using, what would you say to a newbie who's just trying to get a feel for the space?
I think just start small. Start small and go with my rule of thumb. Get a trade line with a credit limit that's higher than anything else you have in your file. um, and then see where your score goes. But I would say, and um, Anna, your question here is related to your question is you
Mhm.
should have a specific financial goal in mind. Don't buy trade lines for without having a goal, right? Because the whole point of the service is that your score is boosted for 2 months or longer, and you need to do something with that score. If you don't do anything with that score, there's no point in getting a higher score, right? Don't spend money um, for nothing, right? Um,
Right.
use a score and either accomplish financial goal like borrowing money, uh, renting an apartment, going out and buy a car and using a car loan, right?
Mhm.
Or use a score and request higher credit limit increases on your own credit card. Sometimes uh, folks do that, right?
Right.
And so use it as a tool.
It's perfect. Any other questions at all? I don't see anything coming in here, and we've really covered a lot in a short amount of time. Really, let people behind the curtain. Anything else, Andy? If we don't get any more questions, we want to leave
Yeah.
everyone with.
While folks are thinking about questions, and we're coming up on time, but we started a couple minutes late, so
Sure.
we'll stay a couple minutes after till like 8:02, 8:03 Eastern. But keep the questions coming. If you don't have any questions now and you have questions come up later, reach us on the website, coachtradelines.com. Fill out the interest form. We're happy to answer your questions. And I would be remiss. One thing I definitely want to mention is everyone on the seminar gets 10% off of your order. If
Wow.
you decide you want to use this, whatever, whether you buy a $250 trade line or a $1,500 trade line, you get 10% off. Just mention when you talk to us that you came on the seminar, we'll give you a 10% off. All right. Just don't forget. You could when you sign up on the interest form in the message, just mention seminar, you'll get 10% off. All right.
That's great. Awesome. There's the link. The link's already in the chat. Thank you for that. That's a great little benefit there, Andy. That's a wonderful little gift. Well, this has been great, and we can, I'm sure we could talk more on this. There's a lot more to unpack, but we probably don't want to delve too much deeper at this
Yeah.
juncture.
Well, since we got a minute left, and
Yep.
if folks have questions, throw them up there. E, can we go to
Maybe a specific.
slide
Yep.
28?
Let's see. This is coming up. I'm keeping an eye on the chats.
Slide
Okay.
28 here,
See it.
we actually have a program. We work with not only folks that buy these trade lines to improve their own credit, we work with actually a lot of folks that resell these trade lines. They are someone of influence in their community. A lot of people go to them to improve their credit score. So we work with a lot of brokers and resellers of these trade lines. And we're able to do that because we work very hard to secure very good pricing with folks that own these credit cards. And so we're able to offer these trade lines at very good pricing, enough for folks to mark up our services and resell it, right?
Mm,
If you are in that realm, if here you are thinking about starting your own business or you already offer credit repair and now you want to offer trade lines, I want to talk about this brokers club that we have. Basically, the more you buy, the more discounts you get, all the way up from silver, gold, all the way up to platinum. At platinum, you get um, there's a typo in that 5%. You get 10% off on all your purchases.
mm,
Every time you buy 10 trade lines, you get $200 bonus. So there's a lot of discounts for folks that buy in volume. Most individuals that are trying to improve their own credit score, they these benefits don't concern them, right?
right.
But we're talking about folks that want to mark up our services. They're reselling it. They're buying
Yep.
like 5 trade lines a month.
Sure.
This pertains to you, and I just want to leave it at that. Okay,
That's
great. So I
great.
think
Yeah.
um, we're at time.
Yeah, I'm
So
glad you touched on that, Andy. That's really insightful, just showing how diverse Coast Trade Lines is from a business standpoint, from an individual standpoint. Use this as an opportunity to boost your own business credit line. There's so many things you can do. And the website really, and go to coasttradelines.com. All of it's there. The website looks fantastic. And, fill out the inquiry and submit. information is ready, as soon as you're ready.
Okay, I think that's a wrap. Jason, thanks for walking us through it, and it was wonderful to share with everybody. I wish everyone a good evening here from New York.
Yeah. Thank you all. Thank you all for coming, and we look forward to hearing from you.